In Mark chapters 1 through 6, we've got this Jesus fellow going around healing people, teaching people, casting out demons. And so the people of the time are skeptical of Jesus. They think that he himself might be a demon. And the alternative that he has provided is that he's the Son of God. And I don't think you kind of put yourself in a lose-lose situation there, Jesus, because you can't prove that you're the Son of God. I think I'm getting ahead of myself, so I should probably just start on chapter 7 of Mark in the World English Bible. Then the Pharisees and some of the scribes gathered together to him, having come from Jerusalem. Now when they saw some of his disciples eating bread with defiled, that is, unwashed, hands, they found fault. For the Pharisees and all the Jews don't eat unless they wash their hands and forearms, holding to the tradition of the elders. They don't eat when they come from the marketplace unless they bathe themselves, and there are many other things which they have received to hold to, washings of cups, pitchers, bronze vessels, and couches. The Pharisees and the scribes asked him, "Why don't your disciples walk according to the tradition of the elders, but eat their bread with unwashed hands?" He answered them, "Well did Isaiah prophesy of you hypocrites, as it is written, 'This people honors me with their lips, but their heart is far from me, but they worship me in vain, teaching as doctrines the commandments of men.' For you set aside the commandment of God and hold tightly to the tradition of men, the washing of pitchers and cups, and you do many other such things." He said to them, "Full well do you reject the commandment of God, that you may keep your tradition. For Moses said, 'Honor your father and your mother,' and 'He who speaks evil of father or mother, let him be put to death.' But you say, if a man tells his father or his mother, 'Whatever profit you might have received from me is Corban,' that is to say, given to God, then you no longer allow him to do anything for his father or his mother, making void the word of God by your tradition which you have handed down. You do many things like this." Corban is a Hebrew word for an offering devoted to God. So Jesus' disciples are eating with unwashed hands, which is gross. It's fine. It happens all the time. I don't think it's a sin or anything. As long as the bread's not they're not breaking it off with their unwashed hands and contaminating the main piece that everyone else is eating from. As long as it's not something like that, I don't think there's any problem with them. It's their own risk, basically. If you want to eat your gross hand bread, you can. But from my perspective, washing your hands or not is a personal choice. I recommend it for health and sanitation reasons, but you don't have to. It's not a evil thing to not do. They don't eat when they come from the marketplace unless they bathe themselves. And that, I think that's just a good idea. The marketplace is a dirty place with a lot of other people. I don't think it's about a sin contamination. I don't think you're getting dirty because you're associating with sinners or anything like that. I think it's just the actual dirt of people in an open space, and it's dirt and animals, and it's not that they don't wash their clothes, but you walk out in a desert for a few hours in them, and man. So I think in general, these traditions of man as far as washing up before eating is good. The Pharisees and the good, but not necessary. The Pharisees and the scribes asked him, "Why don't your disciples walk according to the tradition of the elders, but eat their bread with unwashed hands?" And see, that wouldn't be the way that I would phrase the complaint, because I don't give a shit who's telling you what to do. The question is it the right thing to do? And he answered them, "Well did Isaiah prophesy of you hypocrites, as it is written." And I don't really like prophets. I don't like the idea of prophecy. I think too often people get the wrong impression, and they're like, "Oh, a prophecy is when you magically know what is going to happen in the future." And I don't think that's real. I think that a prophecy is when you're smart enough to make a guess about the future. And really, you don't even have to be smart. A prophecy is just a guess about the future. But I think that the better prophets do base their guesses on more truth. And that's why some of their predictions seem to come true. And, some prophets are just sneaky in the way that they word things. So be careful what you see as a confirmed prophecy. Prophecy or not, what is the content of the message? And here Isaiah seems to be saying, "This people honors me with their lips, but their heart is far from me. They worship me in vain, teaching as doctrines the commandments of men." Because to me, God is not a person. God is not a being. God is not sentient. God is not there. God is not real. So to me, God is truth. The next closest thing, the Alpha, the Omega, that which is and always has been and always will be, is truth. And so the idea that people will say or think that they're doing the right thing, worship me in vain, teaching as doctrines the commandments of men. saying that, oh, well, these things are true, when actually, no, these things were just stuff that people came up with. And it gets really confusing here because we're talking about like washing your hands. It's like, well, yeah, people came up with it, but like it's for a good reason. Like, it's for a good reason, but also you don't have to do it. You know, it's very, very complicated, and they were not ready for that at all at the time. They were ready for absolute judgment at the time. Absolute judgment and very clear instructions is what they wanted. I guess our world is still looking for absolute judgment and very clear instructions, but dude, we gotta come up with it. Like, we're the people here. There's no one above us. There's no God. There's no other beings. It's us. We need to talk to each other. We need to look at the world. We need to figure out what's going on. Teaching as doctrines the commandments of men. God isn't real. God isn't true. That's the frustrating thing about this, is like they get it, but they're not applying it to themselves. They're not applying it to their sacred God. And so as much as Jesus is saying, look, they warned us of hypocrites before, he's also a little bit hypocritical himself. But like, that is hard to avoid. Humans are hypocrites. Honor your father and your mother, and he who speaks evil of father and mother, let him be put to death. And so that's what Moses said, and Jesus is pointing out, like, yeah, see, I don't like this. Because I don't like what Moses said in the first place. He who speaks evil of father or mother, let him be put to death. No, sometimes mother and father are wrong. They should be able to be criticized. They have to be criticized for them to improve. It's ridiculous to pretend that they're infallible. It's ridiculous to pretend that they're always right. It's ridiculous to pretend that they can't be evil. Many parents are evil. Many parents have done worse things to their kids than mine did to me. And I still think mine are evil. Whatever profit you might have received from me is korban, that is to say, given to God. And like, this is the part that I like. Jesus himself is pointing out, don't just credit everything to God, you dumb shits. You're taking credit away from real people. Making void the word of God by your tradition which you have handed down. The problem is there is no word of God. We've never gotten word of God. We've gotten people writing bullshit claiming it's the word of God. That is all. So making void the word of God by your tradition which you have handed down. The reinterpretation of that. Making void the truth by your bullshit, which you just believe because your parents told you to. Such as God, in fact, exactly like God itself. He called all the multitude to himself and said to them, hear me, all of you, and understand. There is nothing from outside of the man that going into him can defile him, but the things which proceed out of the man are those that defile the man. If anyone has ears to hear, let him hear. There is nothing from outside of the man that going into him can defile him. Okay, I think I need to read the next part because I don't fully understand that. When he had entered into a house away from the multitude, his disciples asked him about the parable. He said to them, are you also without understanding? Don't you perceive that whatever goes into the man from outside can't defile him, because it doesn't go into his heart, but into his stomach, then into the latrine, making all foods clean? And you ends Jesus' direct quote and question after latrine, ending the verse with, thus he declared all foods clean. He said, that which proceeds out of the man, that defiles the man. For from within, out of the hearts of men, proceed evil thoughts, adulteries, sexual sins, murders, thefts, covetings, wickedness, deceit, lustful desires, an evil eye, blasphemy, pride, and foolishness. All these evil things come from within and defile the man. Because he's basically saying that, it doesn't matter what you eat, it matters what you believe. And what you believe kind of dictates what comes out of you, what you say. And yeah, I never understood, like, certain foods being sinful or disallowed or considered dirty. Like, there is a bit of an issue here, which is that the foods you eat do affect you, including your brain. And also, if someone's going to hold you down and beat you and make you believe something, it's not up to you. You have to believe it for your own protection, like for your own survival. And part of that involves believing that it was your decision. Like, you have to act like it was you. So, like, people can force unclean things into you. It happened to me. And it took a really, really long time to figure that out. And it's taking a long time to get it all out. And I probably won't. I'll probably be suffering from what they did to me for the rest of my life. But being aware of it has helped a lot. It helps me cope. It helps me adjust, adapt. It helps me compensate for the damage that has been done. It helps me relax and smile, even though I don't know what I'm living for, and I don't really have many plans. Just want to get the truth out there, because it hurt me, it ruined my life, And if I can help anyone else, it's worth it. Let's see. His list of evil thoughts includes adulteries, which, yeah, if you're gonna commit to someone and it's supposed to be a committed relationship, like a non-open relationship, and then you go behind their back and do something with someone else, that's not cool. That's a betrayal of trust. Don't do that. Sexual sins, that is very vague. I'm gonna interpret it to mean like, doing something to someone else without their consent, basically. Yeah, definitely don't do that. Murders, yep, I agree. Murder's bad. I'm gonna go out on a limb and say killing also bad. Most of the time, except for in extreme cases of like self-defense, killing is wrong. Thefts, yeah, that's right. You don't want to take something from someone else because then they don't have it and they might need it. There's probably somewhere else that you can get, if not that thing, something else. Covetings, and that's kind of similar to theft. You want something, you see that someone else has it, you want it. Wickedness, that's very vague. I guess it includes like, random acts of malice. I don't know. Deceit, yep. Don't want to lie to people. Lying is bad. Tricking people is bad. Lustful desires, that's not bad of itself. Like, it's a natural thing to have physical attraction to even weird shit. But if it's taking over your brain, or if it's the only thing you can think of, that is a problem. And you need to kind of reevaluate like your whole existence, I guess. I'm not really sure. We have a lot of work to do in that like department. An evil eye, which not entirely sure what that means, giving people dirty looks, I guess. Blasphemy, if blasphemy means lying or rejecting the truth, then I agree, but we already had deceit, so I assume blasphemy means criticizing God, which I think we need blasphemy. We need to be able to criticize whatever God we have. I don't think we need any God, to be frank. If someone considers blasphemy a sin, I think that's a red flag, because blasphemy is necessary for us to improve, for God to improve, for our concept of God to improve, because there is no real God. We just have a concept of God. And if we can't blaspheme, we can't like call him out on his bullshit. We can't call out that, oh, hey, the God written in this book is a piece of shit. Oh, hey, the God written here, fuck that God. I ain't worshiping that God. That God can put himself to hell. If saying that shit's not allowed, I disagree. We need that. We need that freedom of speech. That is important. Pride, yeah, and pride can go too far very easily. Pride can, feed your ego and just you become entirely self-obsessed. Everything feels personal. Every good thing that happens to you feels like it was done on purpose. Every bad thing that happens, which kind of goes along with believing in God too, because then it's like, well, God is doing this to me or for me. And foolishness, I like that one because that's kind of like the one I did 2 videos ago. When does stupidity become evil? And it's when you have all the information, you're just choosing to be wrong, even though it's hurting people. You just don't care. You want to be wrong. You're just used to it. I don't know. But it's a problem, and it should go away. All these evil things come from within and defile the man. Yeah, kinda. Like, it's tricky. Like, we don't exist in a vacuum. We didn't invent these sins. They did develop in our brains, and they're the product of our brains perceiving and processing and interacting with the world. So it's kind of a combination of it came from within the man and grew as we interacted with existence. But the thing about our brains is we can perceive things, in real time even. And if we're aware of these things, we can actually catch ourselves making these mistakes and we can start to correct them. From there he arose and went away into the borders of Tyre and Sidon. He entered into a house and didn't want anyone to know it, but he couldn't escape notice. For a woman whose little daughter had an unclean spirit, having heard of him, came and fell down at his feet. Now the woman was a Greek, a Syro-Phoenician by race. She begged him that he would cast the demon out of her daughter, but Jesus said to her, "Let the children be filled first, for it is not appropriate to take the children's bread and throw it to the dogs." But she answered him, "Yes, Lord, yet even the dogs under the table eat the children's crumbs." He said to her, "For this saying, go your way, the demon has gone out of your daughter." She went away to her house and found the child having been laid on the bed with the demon gone out. Again he departed from the borders of Tyre and Sidon and came to the Sea of Galilee, through the middle of the region of Decapolis. They brought to him one who was deaf and had an impediment in his speech. They begged him to lay his hand on him. He took him aside from the multitude privately and put his fingers into his ears, and he spat and touched his tongue. Looking up to heaven, he sighed and said to him, Ephatha, that is, be opened. Immediately his ears were opened, and the impediment of his tongue was released, and he spoke clearly. He commanded them that they should tell no one, but the more he commanded them, so much the more widely they proclaimed it. They were astonished beyond measure, saying, He has done all things well. He makes even the deaf hear and the mute speak. I don't believe you. If it's someone who can't talk because they're deaf and they can't hear what they sound like, then all he would really have to do would be clear the blockage, or, if there's something that's physically wrong with their ears, he might be able to fix. Then they can hear themselves again, and then they can talk normally or better. But I don't know what specific case that would work for, because it wouldn't be someone who's been deaf from birth, because then they wouldn't be able to, they wouldn't have any practice speaking. Yeah, so I guess it was someone who was recently deafened, because they knew how to talk, but then once they lost their hearing, they couldn't hear what they sounded like, so they couldn't maintain their language, because they were only deaf for, I don't know how long that would take, months, years, whatever window of time that would take. Then Jesus cleared his ears. There'd be the recognition of my ears are receiving these signals again, and now I can hear myself. I can adjust my voice until my ears like what it sounds like, and people understand my words. So that is my best realistic interpretation of this miracle. I don't think Jesus did any real magic, he must have done something. He must have done some kind of either illusions or demonstrations. He was effective at whatever he was doing, and he was very good at I don't want to say entertaining people, but wowing them, amazing them. He was very good at amazing people, whatever he did. I don't fully understand the part with the woman and the daughter. Jesus said to her, Let the children be filled first, for it is not appropriate to take the children's bread and throw it to the dogs. Because he was yeah, I'll cast out the demon, but only after she's eaten. It's not appropriate to take the children's bread and throw it to the dogs. Let the children be filled first, for it is not appropriate to take the children's bread and throw it to the dogs. See, to me, it would make more sense the other way around, if he was I'll exercise her before dinner, because otherwise the demon's eating her food. But I don't think that's what he's trying to say here. And her response is, Yet even the dogs under the table eat the children's crumbs. And that seems to impress him? For this saying, Go your way, the demon has gone out of your daughter. Yet even the dogs under the table eat the children's crumbs. I can't make sense of that, because I can't make sense of the first part. It is not appropriate to take the children's bread and throw it to the dogs. I'm going to try to look this one up. I really don't know. The answer seems to be racism. So if I'm understanding it right, when Jesus said it is not appropriate to take the children's bread and throw it to the dogs, when he says let the children be filled first, he's talking about people of his own race, because she's Greek, and the source that I looked up said Canaanite, and the King James Version will probably say that too when we get there. And so basically, Jesus is saying, let the children be filled first, let the Jews get their help first, for it is not appropriate to take their bread and throw it to you, the dogs. So not very cool, not a cool thing to say, asshole Jesus. This is the problem with chosen people, it's bullshit. And she immediately proves the chosen people thing wrong, because she immediately understands, yet even the dogs under the table eat the children's crumbs, because she's saying, yeah, okay, I'm not your chosen people guy, but if you're this magic man who can do anything, can't you heal me? And he can. Wait a second. I thought the whole thing with the special relationship is that the Jews were supposed to be good at receiving his word. This person, way better than half his disciples, are always asking him, what the hell did that mean? Every time he says something, which I also did, to be fair. But only because it could mean multiple things, and I wasn't there with him to ask him about it, Jesus heals the woman because she acknowledges that even though he doesn't have time, I guess, to go to her house, he still has superpowers, so hooray. It's a weird thing, Because, like, he's got all this power and, like, there's all these sick people and he just doesn't help them when, like, it's so easy for him to. But I guess he only wants to help people who kind of show that they deserve it in a way. And so, like, this lady is showing respect. But, like, it's very not great. And it doesn't translate to the modern world. And it doesn't work. It doesn't work. All right, we'll go on to King James Version. Then came together unto him the Pharisees and certain of the scribes which came from Jerusalem. And when they saw some of his disciples eat bread with defiled, that is to say, with unwashen hands, they found fault. For the Pharisees and all the Jews, except they wash their hands oft, eat not, holding the tradition of the elders. And when they come from the market, except they wash, they eat not. And many other things there be which they have received to hold, as the washing of cups and pots, brassen vessels, and of tables. Then the Pharisees and scribes asked him, Why walk not thy disciples according to the tradition of the elders, but eat bread with unwashen hands? He answered and said unto them, Well hath Esaias prophesied of you hypocrites, as it is written, This people honoureth me with their lips, but their heart is far from me. Howbeit in vain do they worship me, teaching for doctrines the commandments of men. For laying aside the commandment of God, ye hold the tradition of men, as the washing of pots and cups, and many other such like things ye do. And he said unto them, Full well ye reject the commandment of God, that ye may keep your own tradition. For Moses said, Honour thy father and thy mother, and whoso curseth father or mother, let him die the death. But ye say, If a man shall say to his father or mother, It is Corban, that is to say, a gift, by whatsoever thou mightest be profited by me, he shall be free. And ye suffer him no more to do aught for his father or his mother, making the word of God of none effect through your tradition, which ye have delivered, and many such like things do ye. And when he had called all the people unto him, he said unto them, Hearken unto me, every one of you, and understand. There is nothing from without a man, that entering into him can defile him, but the things which come out of him, those are they that defile the man. If any man have ears to hear, let him hear. And when he was entered into the house from the people, his disciples asked him concerning the parable. And he saith unto them, Are ye so without understanding also? Do ye not perceive that whatsoever thing from without entereth into the man, it cannot defile him? Because it entereth not into his heart, but into the belly, and goeth out into the draught, purging all meats. And he said, That which cometh out of the man, that defileth the man. For from within, out of the heart of men, proceed evil thoughts, adulteries, fornications, murders, thefts, covetousness, wickedness, deceit, lasciviousness, an evil eye, blasphemy, pride, foolishness. All these evil things come from within, and defile the man. And from thence he arose, and went into the borders of Tyre and Sidon, and entered into a house, and would have no man know it, but he could not be hid. For a certain woman, whose young daughter had an unclean spirit, heard of him, and came and fell at his feet. The woman was a Greek, a Syrophoenician by nation, and she besought him that he would cast forth the devil out of her daughter. But Jesus said unto her, Let the children first be filled, for it is not meet to take the children's bread, and to cast it unto the dogs. And she answered and said unto him, Yes, Lord, yet the dogs under the table eat of the children's crumbs. And he said unto her, For this saying go thy way, the devil is gone out of thy daughter. And when she was come to her house, she found the devil gone out, and her daughter laid upon the bed. And again, departing from the coasts of Tyre and Sidon, he came unto the sea of Galilee, through the midst of the coasts of Decapolis. And they bring unto him one that was deaf, and had an impediment in his speech, and they beseech him to put his hand upon him. And he took him aside from the multitude, and put his fingers into his ears, and he spit, and touched his tongue. And looking up to heaven, he sighed, and saith unto him, Ephphatha, that is, be opened. And straightway his ears were opened, and the string of his tongue was loosed, and he spake plain. And he charged them that they should tell no man, but the more he charged them, so much the more a great deal they published it, and were beyond measure astonished, saying, He hath done all things well. He maketh both the deaf to hear, and the dumb to speak. Well, yeah, but it might have been the same problem. Not to diminish the the impact that it would have on that individual, especially. Like, it's a really nice thing to do to someone. For someone. I'm gonna heal you whether you like it or not. Like, that is the vibe you get from Christianity sometimes, is I'm gonna heal you whether you like it or not. And we want to avoid that. You can't force people to do anything, really. Like, you shouldn't, at least, because you forced me to believe your religion that did a lot of damage for a long time until it finally unearthed the lie that you made me tell. So not a lot different in the King James Version. Overall, I like what this chapter is trying to do. I think it needs a rewrite, but I like the idea of, don't take the word of man as truth. It's not usually. You got to verify everything yourself. But that also applies to God. God is the word of man. There was no heavenly person writing the Bible. It was humans. It was humans who were very sure that they were right, but had no evidence and just kind of convinced each other. And, they found all these things, these real things. And like even thought patterns and beliefs and quote, demons, and all these illnesses and whatnot. Like they didn't have specific answers for all these real things at the time. And there were too many for them to possibly ever deal with. And so they just called it God. And they got some things right, but they got a lot wrong. And we cannot just take their word for everything. We have to double check. And most of this does not hold up. But the good parts are like we have here from Jesus. Don't take the word of man as the word of God. The stuff that you eat isn't going to make you a bad person. I mean, extreme cases, it can. But typically speaking, if you have a hot dog, a hamburger, or whatever, like it's complicated because like I'm kind of confronting myself that I've been a meat eater my whole life, and the way that the meat industry handles animals is sickening. And part of me wonders like, well, do we really need to eat the animals at all? We did for a while, I think, in human history, but like at this point, I don't think we do. It seems like we're just killing them because they're tasty. Is that a good enough reason, really? I don't want to like push back too much on meat today. I do think there are bigger problems, but I think that is a symptom of these bigger problems, and I think that we'll come back to that later. And I do like the idea that, Jesus doesn't need a lot of power. It just takes a crumb of, I'll say, the truth to help somebody. But I don't like that he was like withholding it or like wasn't going to help her until she smarted off to him. And then he was like, haha, I like you. That's it. He's like, I like that thing that you said. Your daughter is now healed. Like, oh, good. I'm glad she knew what to say. Otherwise, unfortunate for her daughter, I guess. Like, it's just so like arbitrary and just the smallest little thing. You're damned or you're saved. Like the daughter didn't do anything right or wrong, but she was damned or saved based on whether her mom knew how to charm Jesus. And I'm using damned or saved here as a stand-in for, possessed by a demon. Like that's gonna have a big negative life impact on her and the people around her. It's just crazy how big of a flip he makes at just the drop of a hat, like a whim. And that's what's scary about God, is the absolute judgment on a whim that you can never understand. So that was chapter 7 of Mark. I've seen much worse. Next time we'll take a look at chapter 8. Thanks for watching. Have a good day.